I never thought a single moment could unravel everything I believed about myself. Watching her from across the crowded cafe, an ordinary place turned extraordinary by her presence, I felt the weight of an unspoken tension. Emily, my best friend since childhood, was sitting just a few tables away, her laughter ringing like a bell through the warm, cinnamon-scented air. She had always been the light, the one who brightened even my darkest days. Yet on that particular afternoon, something twisted in the pit of my stomach. I couldn't help but notice how the sunlight caught her hair, making it glimmer like gold. My heart raced, a sharp contrast to the serene atmosphere around us. It wasn't just her beauty, it was the knowledge that I was feeling something that shouldn't belong in our friendship. My mind spiraled as I tried to push the thoughts away, but they clung like shadows, growing darker and more persistent with each heartbeat. The sounds of clinking cups and quiet conversations faded into a dull hum as I focused on her, my inner conflict raging. As I sipped the bitter coffee, its taste mingling with the sweetness of the pastry I had ordered but couldn't quite enjoy, I felt the delicate tension in the air shift. A brief glance exchanged between us ignited a flicker of something deeper, something electrifying and forbidden. The way she smiled, a playful tilt of her lips, sent a rush of warmth through me, igniting a strange mix of desire and dread. I had to stifle the instinctive urge to reach across the table, to touch her hand, to feel her warmth against my skin. Instead, I sat frozen, caught between the familiar comfort of our friendship and the intoxicating thrill of something more. The cafe was filled with the aroma of fresh pastries and the faintest hint of roasted coffee. Yet all I could sense was the heady scent that clung to her, something floral and intoxicating. I inhaled deeply, drowning in the moment, as my thoughts spiraled into darker territories. What would it mean to cross that invisible line? The weight of my secrecy pressed down on me, knotting my stomach as shame washed over me like cold water, chilling and exhilarating all at once. Every laugh she shared with others felt like a dagger to my chest, a reminder of how far I was willing to go to keep this hidden. I was terrified of the consequences, yet there was a thrill in knowing I wanted something more than friendship, a twisted, exhilarating longing that made my heart race and my palms sweat. I glanced at her again, and for a fleeting moment, I imagined what it would be like to kiss her, to let everything fall away, to embrace the chaos lurking beneath the surface. But fear gripped me tighter than desire. What if I ruined everything? The thought sent a shiver down my spine, and I bit my lip, trying to suppress the tumult within me. The cafe, once my escape, transformed into a prison of my own making. I felt the walls closing in, the laughter dwindling to an echo as my mind spiraled further down the path of what-ifs. I couldn't let this happen. I wouldn't let it. Yet, as Emily reached for her phone, her fingers brushing against the smooth surface, I felt a surge of longing so potent it took my breath away. What if she felt something too? The curiosity was maddening, gnawing at the edges of my resolve. But no. I was just imagining things, projecting my feelings onto her. I had to push these thoughts aside, to bury them deep where they couldn't hurt us. And yet, the more I tried to contain it, the more intense the urge became. The air was thick with unspoken words, and I felt my heart in my throat as I realized the truth. I was scared of losing her, scared of what would happen if I let my feelings surface. If I leaned into this desire, would it fracture the very foundation of our friendship? I could feel my pulse quicken, the soft thrum of anxiety echoing in my ears. As I stood to leave, the world outside beckoned with a promise of escape. But I hesitated, lingering just a moment longer. I caught her eye, and a flicker of understanding passed between us, an electric spark that left me breathless. My heart raced with uncertainty. Was it a shared moment, or just my imagination running wild? The shame coiled around my chest, squeezing tightly, forcing me to turn away, to slip into the safety of denial. With the door's chime in my ears, I stepped outside into the crisp air, the world around me dull and gray. I could still feel the warmth of her laughter, vivid and alive, echoing in my mind. Each breath carried with it a hint of regret, a whisper of what could have been. As I walked away, I realized I was leaving behind not just the cafe, but a piece of myself, an uncharted territory I dared not explore. And within me lingered a disquieting sense of what I could never admit, a hidden longing that would likely haunt me forever, wrapped in layers of shame and secrecy, waiting to be unearthed. I never thought a single glance could unravel everything I believed about myself. The dimly lit coffee shop had always been my sanctuary, a place to escape the mundane rhythm of life. It was filled with familiar aromas, rich, dark coffee mingling with the sweet scent of pastries that I had sworn off in a personal battle against temptation. I often found solace in my well-worn journal, the soft rustle of paper comforting against the background hum of conversations and clinking cups. But that day, everything shifted. As I settled into my usual corner, pen poised, I noticed her. In the midst of a crowded table, she radiated a magnetic energy that drew me in, though I barely knew her. Her laughter danced through the air, bright and contagious, sending a flutter through my chest that felt thrilling, yet terrifying. I tried to focus on my writing, convincing myself I could ignore the spiraling curiosity that beckoned me toward her. As the minutes passed, my attention drifted. I watched her animated gestures, her hair glinting under the cafe's soft lights, and an inexplicable pang of longing took root within me. There was something forbidden in the way she moved, in the way her laughter reverberated like a secret shared only with the universe. My heart quickened, heat flooding my cheeks as an inner conflict brewed, a clash between propriety and a burgeoning desire to connect. I had prided myself on my restraint, on navigating the world without succumbing to distractions. Yet here I was, caught in the undertow of her presence, my mind racing with thoughts I had never dared to entertain. What would it feel like to break that invisible barrier, to step outside the confines of my carefully constructed life? A shiver of shame danced along my spine at the thought, but the intrigue was intoxicating. As if sensing my gaze, she turned, her eyes locking onto mine. In that instant, a jolt surged through me, a thrilling mix of excitement and terror. I quickly looked away, pretending to scribble notes in my journal, but I could feel her probing gaze lingering, weaving a thread of connection that was both frightening and exhilarating. How foolish I felt, yet how desperately I craved that moment to stretch into infinity where the mundane ceased to exist. Days passed and my routine remained unchanged, yet my thoughts constantly drifted back to her, a ghost haunting my waking hours. I began to question everything about myself, my beliefs, choices, my curated existence. It was as if she had awakened something dormant within me, a flicker of rebellion against the predictability I had adhered to for so long. The shame of my curiosity coiled tightly around me, each thought a reminder of what I should not feel. One rainy afternoon, cloaked in the comforting anonymity of the cafe, I made a decision. I would write a note. Simple, yet laden with all the things I couldn't say aloud. With trembling fingers, I scrawled my thoughts, the ink flowing like a river of vulnerability. Would she understand? Would she laugh? Or worse, would she dismiss me? Shatter my fragile hopes? The weight of uncertainty pressed down on me, but I folded the note, the paper crinkling softly, echoing my inner turmoil. As I approached her table, my heart thudded in my chest, a primal rhythm urging me forward while simultaneously holding me back. The moment stretched, every second elongated by fear. I could feel the world around me fade, the laughter dulled, leaving only the pounding of my heart and the rustle of the note in my hand. I was floating on a precipice, teetering on the edge of something that could either liberate me or plunge me into despair. "Excuse me," I managed to whisper, my voice barely tutting through the noise. As she turned to face me, the warmth in her gaze ignited every nerve ending, and for a fleeting moment, all my shame dissipated. I extended the note, our fingers brushing ever so slightly, a fleeting connection that sent a spark through me. Her eyes widened in surprise, a mix of curiosity and confusion etched across her features. "I thought you might want to read this," I stammered, immediately regretting the words. They felt hollow, a fragile offering on the altar of my unspoken feelings. She took the note, our fingers lingering for just a heartbeat longer, and I turned away, heart racing as I retreated to my corner, the warmth of her touch still burning in my memory. In the days that followed, every encounter became a dance of anticipation and dread. I waited for a response, replaying that moment in my mind, the look in her eyes, the brush of our fingers. And yet, as time passed, I began to feel the weight of my own foolishness. Had I misread everything? Was my vulnerability nothing more than a fleeting whim? The shame wrapped around me like a shroud, constricting every thought I had. Then came the day she approached me. The cafe buzzed with laughter and clinking cups, but in that moment, all I could hear was the pounding of my heart. She stood before me, the note crumpled in her hand, her expression indecipherable. I read it," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. My breath caught in my throat, the world narrowing down to just us. "I didn't know you felt that way," she continued, and there was something in her eyes that held a promise of understanding, intertwined with apprehension that mirrored my own. I felt the familiar shame creeping back, a bitter reminder of what I had initiated. As we spoke, our words danced around an unspoken truth, an electric tension crackling between us, and for a moment, I teetered on the brink of something beautiful and terrifying. But just as quickly as the connection sparked, doubt loomed over me, casting a chill across our conversation. Would this lead to liberation or ruin? With every word exchanged, the weight of secrecy hung heavier. The very nature of our curiosity threatened to unravel everything I had known. As she met my gaze, I saw the flicker of her own inner conflict, and an overwhelming urge to retreat gripped me. What had I done? As she turned to leave, the air crackled with unspoken possibilities, the space between us pulsing with tension. I could have said something, anything, to bridge that gap, to chase away the encroaching darkness of regret. Instead, I remained silent, watching her walk away, the distance between us stretching into an abyss that felt insurmountable. In that moment, the weight of my choices settled heavily upon me, leaving me suspended in a liminal space filled with longing and uncertainty. All I could do was wonder, had I truly awakened something beautiful, or had I merely conjured a tempest that would leave us both adrift, haunted by a connection that was always meant to remain unfulfilled? I never thought I would find myself caught in a web of shadows, but that's where I discovered the most intoxicating secret of my life. I was just an ordinary person navigating the familiar streets of my small town, burdened by everyday monotony. My name is Alex, and I often felt invisible, an unnoticed figure drifting between the lines of existence. My world was draped in the mundane, the scent of freshly brewed coffee, the rhythmic tapping of shoes on pavement, and the hum of fleeting conversations. Yet, beneath this facade, an ache stirred within me, an insatiable curiosity, a desire to touch the forbidden. It started with an innocuous encounter, I was browsing a quaint bookstore, its air thick with the musty aroma of aging paper, when I noticed a peculiar title nestled between two well-worn novels. The cover, an abstract swirl of colors, drew me in, igniting intrigue. I could feel the weight of the book in my hands, a heavy promise of adventure wrapped in secrecy. As I turned the pages, I stumbled upon a passage that spoke of hidden desires and uncharted emotions. My heart raced, a tumultuous mix of excitement and trepidation. Days turned into weeks, and I found myself returning to that bookstore, the thrill of discovery becoming an obsession. Each time I entered, I felt a rush of anticipation, the ambient sounds fading as I ventured deeper into the labyrinth of stories. But it wasn't just the novels that captivated me. It was the presence of a familiar stranger, an enigmatic figure who always lingered near the shelves, their dark hair falling loosely over their shoulders, eyes glinting with an intensity that both terrified and exhilarated me. We exchanged glances, brief yet electric, each moment charged with unspoken words. There was a magnetic pull that tethered us together despite the distance. One afternoon, the air was thick with the scent of rain, the kind that clung to skin and soaked the earth. As the world outside blurred into shades of gray, I felt the tension building within me. I approached the stranger, my heart pounding like a caged bird desperate for freedom. Our conversation began awkwardly, but soon morphed into something deeper, a shared exploration of anxieties, dreams, and tangled desires. Each word exchanged felt like a secret unveiled, dripping with vulnerability and urgency. That day, we made a pact to discover the world beyond our daily lives and seek out the hidden corners of our desires. It was both thrilling and terrifying, a delicate dance on the precipice of the unknown. We decided to meet at a secluded park, hidden from prying eyes. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and blooming flowers, and as I waited, I felt the weight of anticipation settle into my bones. When they arrived, the tension between us crackled like electricity, amplifying every touch, every glance. The world around us faded away, replaced by the intoxicating closeness that enveloped us. We spoke in hushed tones, our laughter mingling with the rustle of leaves and distant chirping of birds. But beneath that laughter lurked an undercurrent of shame, the knowledge that this connection defied the boundaries we had constructed. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over our sanctuary, the atmosphere shifted. There was a moment when our hands brushed against each other, a fleeting touch that sent ripples through my core. It was innocent, yet the weight of uncharted territory loomed over us. I felt warmth bloom across my cheeks, a mixture of exhilaration and guilt. What were we doing? I could hear the ticking of an unseen clock, the whispered warnings of reason battling against the allure of the unknown. Then a soft breeze swept through the trees, carrying the scent of something sweet and wild, temptation. In that moment, I was overwhelmed by emotion. I yearned to cross that invisible line, to dive into this connection that felt so right, yet so wrong. But fear of what lay on the other side held me captive. I was teetering on the edge of a cyclone of curiosity, doubt, and the thrill of the forbidden. As the last light of day faded, we shared our first genuine silence, a moment suspended in time where words felt inadequate, where the unspoken truth hung heavily in the air. I could see it in their eyes, the same desire battling against the walls we had built around our hearts. But as we stood there, a veil of uncertainty cloaked us. Would we dare to leap? Would we succumb to the intoxicating pull that threatened to unravel us both? In that delicate balance between fear and longing, I felt the weight of my choices pressing down, reminding me of the consequences that lingered on the periphery. As I looked away, grappling with the maelstrom of emotions swirling within, I realized that some secrets are better left unspoken. The boundaries of my world felt both suffocating and liberating, and I knew instinctively that the path ahead was shrouded in ambiguity. With a final glance, we parted ways, the air heavy with unresolved tension, a silent acknowledgement of what could have been. I walked away, each step echoing with regret and longing, the taste of the moment still fresh on my lips. The shadows of our encounter enveloped me, leaving me with an ache that would linger long after I returned to ordinary life. As I slipped back into my routine, I wrestled with my own heart, the tantalizing secret that now danced just beyond my reach, a reminder of the thrill and shame of desire.